Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
बोलो लाडली लाल की, श्रीमद् सद्गुरु सरकार की। Radhe Radhe to everybody. Thank you for inviting me here tonight. I feel so at home in Trinidad. All of you have made me feel so at home, and really I'm just happy to be able to meet all of you and get to see Trinidad finally after all these years. Trinidad was, everybody knows, a favorite of Sri Maharajji's. He came here and spent as much time as he could. So it's nice. Now I see why. Not just because the country is beautiful, but you all exemplify many of the characteristics that Maharajji emphasized that a devotee should develop in their heart. So I'll begin with Vandana and some Kirtan, and then I'll continue with the Bhagavatam discussion. Mannatha Shri Jagannatho Madguru Shri Jagadguru Madatma Sarvabhutatma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Barhapidam Natvarvapu Karnayo Karnikaram Vibhradvasa Kanakapisham Vaijayanti Chamalam Randhran Veno Radhar Sudhaya Purayan Gopavrindair Vrindaranyam Svapadramanam Pravishad Geet Kirti Namah Kamalna Bhaya Namah Kamalma नमः कमलपादाय नमस्ते कमलेक्षण यो ब्रह्माणं विदधाति पूर्वं यो वै वेदांश्च प्रहिणोति तस्मै तग्वंह देवमात्मबुद्धिप्रकाशं मुमुक्षुर्वै शरणमहं प्रपद्ये। Dear devotees, join me in singing the divine name of Radha Krishna as we all do Roop Dhyan together. Let's visualize the form of Hari and Guru as we, from our hearts, chant Radhe Govind. Radhe Radhe Govind Govind Radhe
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 Radhe Govind Govind Radhe
Radhe Radhe Govind Govind Radhe
Radhe Radhe Govind Govind Radhe
Radhe Radhe Govind Govind Radhe
Radhe Radhe Govind Govind Radhe
Radhe Radhe Govind Govind Radhe
Radhe Radhe Govind Govind Radhe
Radhe Radhe Govind Govind Radhe
Radhe Radhe Govind Govind Radhe
Radhe Radhe Govind Govind Radhe
Radhe Radhe Govind Govind Radhe
Radhe Radhe Govind Govind Radhe
Radhe Radhe Govind Govind Radhe
Radhe Radhe Govind Govind Radhe
Radhe Radhe Govind Govind Radhe
Radhe Radhe Govind Govind Radhe
Radhe Radhe Govind Govind Radhe
Radhe Radhe Govind Govind Radhe
Radhe Radhe Govind Govind Radhe
Radhe Radhe Govind Govind Radhe
Radhe Radhe Govind Govind राधे गोविंद गोविंद राधे
राधे 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 राधे गोविंद गोविंद राधे
गोविंद राधे
गोविंद राधे
गोविंद राधे गोविंद राधे 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 गोविंद गोविंद राधे 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 गोविंद गोविंद राधे 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 गोविंद गोविंद राधे गोविंद राधे 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 गोविंद गोविंद राधे राधे गोविंद गोविंद राधे 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 गोविंद गोविंद राधे 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 गोविंद गोविंद राधे गोविंद राधे गोविंद राधे गोविंद राधे गोविंद राधे 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 गोविंद 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 गोविंद राधे राधे गोविंद गोविंद राधे लबेली सरकार की As we did yesterday, I'll begin by discussing a little bit of the practical philosophy of the Bhagavatam as it relates to devotion, how to do devotion. Then we'll do a little bit of Rup Dhyan together, and after that, I'll get into some more of the theory, the technical theory of the Bhagavatam. Yesterday, I explained that the actual real benefit of the Bhagavatam is beyond us. I told you that when Vedavyasji had written the Bhagavatam and he wanted to teach it to somebody, there was no disciple in his ashram that he felt was qualified to receive not only the knowledge but the bliss of the Bhagavatam. Because the bliss of Shri Krishna's Leelas are imbued in the Bhagavatam. So only his son Shukadevji was qualified. It means that neither am I qualified to tell you the Bhagavatam, and many of you may not be qualified to hear the Bhagavatam. But nonetheless, even though hearing the Bhagavatam, we may not receive the unlimited divine bliss of Shri Krishna's Leelas, nonetheless, we can still receive some benefit. The Bhagavatam is also for the devotees. The benefit we get from it is by taking those Leelas of Shri Krishna and using them as devotional material, as a way of attaching our mind to Shri Krishna by remembering those Leelas described in the Bhagavatam. So in that way we use it as part of our process of doing devotion. Then we can get some benefit from the Bhagavatam. So even though we are not in the class of Shukadevji and Parikshit, yet we can still get some devotional benefit from discussing and listening to the Bhagavatam. As regards the devotional philosophy, yesterday I explained that Parikshit had come to Shukadevji with a question. What should a person do who's about to die? He knew he had only 7 days left to live. And he added to that, what should an ordinary person do who may not be about to die? An ordinary person doesn't know when they're going to die. Today, tomorrow, after 80 years, we don't know. So he had two, point A and point B of his question. But the answer for both was the same. Shukadevji told him, Shrotavya kirtitavyascha smartavyo bhagavan nrinam. I explained this yesterday. He told him, whether you're on death's bed or you're about to die or you're a regular person with his whole life in front of him in the world, in either case, what you want to do is Shravana Bhakti, Kirtana Bhakti, and most importantly, Smarana Bhakti. Shravana meaning listening to the Leelas of Shri Krishna and listening to the devotional philosophy. Kirtan Bhakti, singing God's name, singing His Leelas, singing about His divine virtues. And most importantly, Smarana Bhakti, remembering Him in our heart. So yesterday I briefly described that doing Roop Dhyan is the most effective way of remembering God. Roop Dhyan means making the form, imagining His form in your mind with the faith that it's not just imagination, He really is right here in front of me. That's Roop Dhyan. Let's look at another part of the Bhagavatam that describes about the path to God. Practically, what do we have to do? In the very beginning of the Bhagavatam, before we actually even get to hear about the discussion that takes place between King Parikshit, who is asking the questions, and Shukadev Ji Paramahans, who is answering, before that, we hear about a discussion taking place between Sut Ji Maharaj and Shaunakadik Paramahans. If you look at any of our scriptures of Sanatan Dharma, they're all built in the same way. They're conversations within conversations. For instance, in the Gita, how does it start? With a conversation between Sanjay and Dhritarashtra. And Dhritarashtra is asking, tell me what's happening on the battlefield. What are my sons and the sons of Pandu doing? Then Sanjay describes, okay, Arjuna is asking this, Shri Krishna is answering that. So we're hearing about the conversation between Arjuna and Shri Krishna through Sanjay and Dhritarashtra's conversation. So it's something like this. In the Bhagavatam, we actually begin with a conversation between Sut Ji Maharaj and Shaunakadik Paramahans. Shaunakadik means Shaunak, who is the leader of these great Jnani saints, the knowers of formless God. There were many of them. So Adik means and so on, and others. So Shaunak Shaunakadik Paramahans, they were performing a 1,000-year yajna, worshipping God through this yajna. So in the middle of this yajna comes the great saint Sut Ji Maharaj, who's known for his knowledge of the Puranas, including Bhagavatam. So when Sut Ji came, all of these Paramahansas prepared a nice seat, a proper throne for him, and asked him to sit. And then they asked him a question. So Bhagavatam begins with this question, where Shaunakadik Paramahans say, Sut Ji, please, we have a question. There are so many paths described in the scriptures, so many paths described by various saints who have come to this world. But it's Kali Yuga. It's the age of materialism. People live a shorter life. Even while they're alive, their bodies don't stay healthy. That becomes a distraction for them. Their mind lacks focus. They said all these things, that in Kali Yuga, people have a lazy mind. They have very bad memory. They can't remember even if you tell someone to do something and then you ask him 2 hours later, oh, I forgot. Let me go and do it right now. So we have poor memory, poor ability to focus, poor physical health. We can't sit for a long time. We're distracted by all of our attachments in the world. So they said that Sut Ji, knowing that this is the state of the human mind, this is the human condition in Kali Yuga, please tell us, what is the one sure path? What is the best path for someone to follow to attain his Shreya? Shreya means your ultimate good, your ultimate goal. In other words, God. So this was how Bhagavat began. Sut Ji said, Savai punsam paro dharmo yato bhaktiradhokshaje ahaitukya pratihata yayatma samprasidati. He said the paradharma, par meaning param, supreme. The param dharma is bhakti. Yato bhaktiradhokshaje. Whatever brings bhakti for Shri Krishna in your heart, that is your supreme dharma. Dharma is of two types. If you want to define dharma, you go to the root, which is dhring. Dhring means that which is worth adopting because of what it gives you. It sustains you in a certain way. So since we are a dual personality, the divine soul residing in the physical body, so there's two types of dharma. One dharma to sustain our soul, and one dharma to sustain our body. One is Bhagavat dharma. One is Mayik dharma. Our soul wants God, needs God. So the path to God is our supreme dharma. And our body needs things from this world. So living a good life in the world, living a healthy, balanced life in the world is our physical dharma, our Mayik dharma. But Shaunakadik Paramahansa were asking about attaining Shreya, the happiness of the soul. How will we attain that? So he said the supreme dharma is whatever develops bhakti for Shri Krishna in your heart. And then he went on to say, by the way, the same question was asked to Shukadev ji by Parikshit. So then he started telling about who is Shukadev ji, which I related to you yesterday. Who is Parikshit, how he got the divine vision of Shri Krishna in the womb before he was born. And then how they came to meet on the bank of Ganga. And then how Parikshit started asking questions from Shukadev ji. So this is how the Bhagavatam is introduced. So bhakti is foremost in the Bhagavatam. Although yoga is also described, jnana is also described, karma is also described. All the paths are described, but in the context of showing the greatness of bhakti, that these paths also exist. They also are described in Vedas. They're also taught by saints. However, all of these paths depend on bhakti. Yesterday I also described to you that in the 11th canto of the Bhagavatam, near the end, there's 12 cantos in the Bhagavatam. Skand. It's divided into major sections. So 12 skand, and each skand has chapters. And then each chapter has a certain number of shlokas. Like it could have 40 shlokas, 100 shlokas, 200. And then each skand will have a different number of chapters, like 10 chapters, 80 chapters, 100 chapters. So in the 11th skand, most of it is a conversation between Uddhav and Shri Krishna. Uddhav asks a very similar question. He says, Shri Krishna, please tell me that there's so many paths described, so many saints teaching so many different ways of being spiritual. Is there one true path? Is there one supreme path that everyone should follow? So Shri Krishna said, Kalena nashta pralaye varniyam veda sangita Mayadau brahmane prokta dharmo yasyam madatmakah. Uddhav, in the beginning I gave this knowledge of dharma to Brahma in the form of Vedas and Puranas. Shri Krishna himself, sitting in Brahma's heart, makes him just know Vedas and Puranas. Through his grace, Brahma gets the knowledge automatically. So he said, I gave that knowledge to Brahma of dharma. And what is dharma? Dharmo yasyam madatmakaha. In one short phrase, he defines dharma. How a soul comes to me, that's dharma. So I gave that knowledge, but over the years, it gets interpreted and applied in different ways. So many different paths pop up. Dharma meke yashaschanye kamam satyam damam shamam anye vadanti swartham va aishwaryam tyaga bhojanam kechid yagya tapodanam vratani niyaman adyantavanta evaisham. He's telling that all of these paths, they're adyantavanta. The phal, the result they give, is temporary. Unless you add in one more thing. Adyantavanta evaisham dharmo karma vinirmita dukkho darkastamo nishtha chudrananda shucharpita bhaktyahame grahya shraddhayatma priyah satam bhakti punati mannishtha shvapakanapi sambhavat. So he describes all of the different paths. And in the end he says, but I'm only grahya through bhakti. Grahya means to grab, to get him, to reach him. I'm only reachable through bhakti. So you see, there are several places in the Bhagavatam where, although Bhagavatam acknowledges that there are many different paths, many different ways to be spiritual, but in order to reach God, there's only one means, that is bhakti. All other means will bring you towards God, but leave you part way. The only way to actually meet God is through bhakti. How is bhakti practiced? He goes on to tell Uddhav. Katham vinaro maharsham dravata va cetasa vina vinananda shrukalaya shuddhyed bhaktya vinashaya. He says, Uddhav, bhakti is not just a formality to be done with the physical body. Unless, while you're remembering me, the hairs on your neck don't stand up, you're not doing bhakti. Meaning, a thrill. You feel an excitement. Vinananda shrukalaya. Unless tears come in your eyes, tears of excitement, of joy, or tears of longing to meet me, Shri Krishna says, then you don't have bhakti. Dravata va cetasa. Dravata means to melt. Unless your heart melts when you think of me. You know, when your heart, you feel like a warm, fuzzy feeling or a growing warmth that spreads. Unless you have that for Shri Krishna, he says, then there's no bhakti. This is a very important verse. Yesterday I explained the importance of smaran, that if you're doing kirtan but you're not thinking of Shri Krishna, then you're not really doing bhakti. In fact, he's noting down what you're thinking of, not the fact that you're chanting his name. If you're doing shravan, meaning the words are going in, but you're thinking about something else, then you're not really hearing anything. So smaran, having the mind in God, is prime. Everything else is a helper to help us keep our mind in God. This shlok I just explained to you is taking this idea further ahead, emphasizing that when we do devotion, no matter what type of devotion we're doing, there should be feeling in it. If we don't have the feeling, we should at least have the desire to have the feeling. That's the beginning. Maybe you're meditating on Shri Krishna, you're doing Roop Dhyan, you're chanting His name and you're trying to do it with feeling and you feel nothing, but you at least feel that you should be feeling something. Then you've begun. You are really doing bhakti if you just have that understanding. One time in the satsang of Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Ji, there was a devotee who was like this. He always heard Mahaprabhu Ji say, Nayanam galadashrudharaya vadanam gadgadrudhaya gira pulakair nichitam vapuh kada tavanam grahane bhavishyati. Oh Shri Krishna, when will that time come when, while chanting your name, tears will come from my eyes? My throat will choke with loving emotions for you. My body will feel a thrill, my hairs will stand on end. When will that day come? When will that day come when the whole world will seem empty without you? And tears will flow continuously from my eyes as I long for your vision. So he has heard Mahaprabhuji repeating this over and over in the satsang, and yet tears are still not coming. Many of you are probably lucky enough to have tears as soon as you sit and you just think of Shri Krishna or you think of Guruji. Tears come. Not everybody is that lucky. Some people do devotion for years and they feel this heart is so hard. It hasn't melted yet. Tears still don't come. But they're sincere and they keep trying. Shri Krishna is also gracing them. His heart is melting for them. He sees their sincerity and their effort, and one day their heart will melt. So there was one devotee like this in Mahaprabhuji's satsang. No matter how hard he tried, tears would not come. So one day he was fed up. He got some hot pepper and he got some of the oil on his fingers and he put it like you would put kajal under your eyes. And he went and sat in the kirtan and the tears were pouring from his eyes. And another devotee who was there in the satsang, he observed this behavior of him and he went and told Mahaprabhuji. He brought that devotee and he said, I saw him, he's faking the tears. He put the oil and that's causing his eyes to run. So Mahaprabhuji asked that devotee, is it true? He said, yes. And he explained that my heart is so hard. No matter, for years I've been trying, tears won't come. I'm so fed up. Mahaprabhuji embraced that devotee, seeing the simplicity of his heart and the sincerity of his desire, his devotional desire. And he scolded the other devotee, saying that you're supposed to be sitting, doing devotion to Shri Krishna. Instead, you're observing who's doing what, who's putting hot pepper oil in their eyes. You should be as sincere as this devotee. So Shri Krishna is making this point in the Bhagavatam. Devotion has to be more than a formality. It's not a physical job to be done. Every day I do this. That's how we do our duties, our jobs in the world. Something we have to do. Devotion is a natural, loving remembrance. He is mine. Shri Krishna is mine, so I just want to think of him. I want to long for him. I want to chant his name. True bhakti is this kind of selfless love that comes from inside. Then whatever physical devotion we do, it's only to enhance that inner love or to help us develop that inner love. Japa tapa niyama yoga nija dharma shruti sambhava nana shubha karma. Tulsidas ji is saying the same thing. Jnana dayadam tirath majjana jahan lagi dharma kahe shruti sajjana agam nigam puran aneka padhe sune kar phal prabhu eka tav pad pankaj priti nirantar sab sadhan kar yah phal sundar. All the forms of devotion have only one goal: to develop love for the lotus feet of the Lord. That's it, love. Tava pada pankaj priti nirantar. True love is continuous. Bhakti is a state of mind. It's an attachment of the mind where love for Shri Krishna stays in your heart all the time. When you love someone in this world, do you love them in certain time zones only? Like, okay, at this time I sit and do devotion. So let's say you love your son or you love your daughter. So from 8 till 9 a.m., I'm going to sit and think loving thoughts of my son. And then again before bed, I'm going to do that, like a regulated time. And then the rest of the day, I forget about him totally. People would laugh, right? If you explain that's how you love your family. They would say, no, love is just a natural thing. It stays in your mind all the time. You just feel related, like he's my son, he's mine. So he's in your heart all the time. That's bhakti. Now, since we don't have that deep natural connection to Shri Krishna automatically, so we have to set aside time. We have to say from 8 till 9 a.m. or from 5 till 6 a.m. or whatever your timing is. I'm going to sit and think loving thoughts of Shri Krishna. We have to do that. And then again before bed, from 9 till 10, I'm going to sit and think of Shri Krishna. We have to set aside those timings, but that doesn't mean that now the rest of the day, okay, I'm done. Like I did my sadhana, I thought of him, now let me just submerge my mind in worldly thoughts the rest of the day. That's not bhakti. Bhakti is not a formality that, okay, I did it. I did my arti and my puja and now I'm done. True bhakti has to remain in the heart, nirantar, unbroken, all the time. When Sudji said bhakti is the supreme dharma, he then defined some of the important characteristics of bhakti. He said, ahaituki, it must be selfless. Hetu means a reason. Whenever I pray to God, He fulfills my wishes. That's a reason. So I love Him because He gives me what I want. That's not ahaituki bhakti. The bhakti of the Bhagavatam is selfless. Don't ask Him for anything. He's yours. Just love Him with no demand. Love for the sake of love. Love for the sake of seva, with a desire to please Him. This is the bhakti of the Bhagavatam. So ahaituki and apratihata, unbroken. Because it's a natural love that stays in your mind, so why would you forget him? Tad vismarane paramavyakulateti. Narad ji, in his Narad Bhakti Darshan, he defined bhakti as, if you really have bhakti, then if you forget Shri Krishna, even by accident, even for a second, then you feel a restlessness. Like if someone is holding their hand over your mouth and you can't breathe, how restless are you to get that next breath? You feel that kind of restlessness if you forget Shri Krishna. Then you know you have bhakti. So the Bhagavatam is very important because it clarifies these points about bhakti. It defines what is true bhakti. It tells us what are the characteristics of true bhakti. So what I'd like to do now is lead you in a short Rup Dhyan, guided meditation, and after that we'll do a little bit of Kirtan. Then we'll discuss a little more of the theory of the Bhagavatam. So let's put into practice what we just learned about how devotion is to be done according to the Bhagavatam. Go ahead and close your eyes. As Shri Krishna said, we have to long for him. We have to feel something in our heart when we think of him. A thrill in our body, a melting of the heart, tears welling in the eyes because of our sincere desire to meet him. There are two ways to do Rup Dhyan. Rup means the form and Dhyan means to meditate. So we're going to meditate on the form of Shri Krishna. The expansion of Shri Krishna is his own divine abode. He himself has become divine Vrindavan, divine Golok. He himself has become the sky, the earth, the wind, the river, the fragrance of the flowers, the sun, the moon. So meditating on his divine abode and meditating on him is one and the same thing. You get the same benefit. The two ways of practicing Rup Dhyan are either through feelings of Milan or feelings of Viraha. Milan means meeting. It means in our Rup Dhyan, we visualize meeting with Shri Krishna. And the other way is through feelings of Viraha. Viraha is that fire in the heart, the heat of separation you feel when you desire to meet Shri Krishna, but you haven't met him, you can't see him, but you want to see him. This is Viraha. So let's see ourselves in the divine abode of Shri Krishna, and we're waiting for him. You're sitting in his divine abode. You can't see him, but you know he's around. You wish to meet him. In fact, you've wanted to meet him for a long time. For as long as you can remember, and even before that. The only desire of a soul is to meet his divine beloved Shri Krishna. The Atma only has one desire, to meet with Paramatma. That's why the love of this world has never fully satisfied us. Because only Shri Krishna's love can make our soul feel whole and complete. So forever, we've been seeking that perfect love, perfect happiness, but we've been seeking it in the world. Now we have to seek it from our true divine friend, companion, and beloved, Shri Krishna. Feel the longing in your heart. What is that like, to have been separated from Him forever? It's your only true desire to meet Him, and yet, since eternity, you've been separate from Him. Since eternity, you've been wandering in this world, looking to the faces of all the people in this world, trying to find that happiness, and forgetting about your true divine friend, Shri Krishna. Now turn your heart towards Him. Feel a sense of repentance that He has been waiting for me with open arms forever. He's been looking towards me with loving eyes, waiting to embrace me forever, and I have been ignoring Him. Feel in your heart that despite our lack of gratitude, despite our ignoring Him, He has never turned away from us. He has never lost hope in us, and He has been waiting for us. Now long for Him in your heart. Ask Him forgiveness for having forgotten about Him. Ask Him forgiveness for having always sought happiness in the world and ignored His grace. Ask forgiveness for having ignored His teachings and the teachings of His saints who came to this world and told us, you're a soul. Your only true happiness is Krishna. They taught us that the same Shri Krishna resides in the heart of every living being. So don't have bad feelings for anyone, even a so-called bad person. We also ignored that teaching, and we spent so much time criticizing others and dwelling upon the faults of others. We should truly feel, and if we truly feel that, tears may come, tears of repentance. Use this feeling. Grow this feeling and transform it into an intense longing now to meet Shri Krishna. Ask Him not only for His forgiveness, but ask Him to come to you. Why would He not come to you? He's yours and He's been waiting for you forever. He will definitely come if you ask Him wholeheartedly, sincerely. Try to make Him come with your true devotion in your heart. He can't resist, He can't stay away if someone truly surrenders to Him and truly longs to meet Him. Now, with this desire in your heart, we're going to start to do some kirtan. We're going to sing Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. In this kirtan, we are calling Shri Krishna to come to us. So from the bottom of your heart, ask Him to come. Compel Him to come with your sincere longing and chant His name, call His name with real feelings of viraha. Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare
Hare
Bolo Shama Sham Ki. Now I'll share a little bit more of the theory of what is the Bhagavatam and why is it so special. We even say that Bhagavatam is beyond the Gita. Both are told by Shri Krishna, but there's something that puts the Bhagavatam even above the Gita. See, in the Gita, Shri Krishna says, Sarva dharman parityajya mamekam sharanam vraja aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshayishyami ma shuchah. He tells Arjuna in the very end of the Gita, if you surrender your mind to me, I'll grace you and I'll give you moksha. The Gita does not make a distinction between the different options in the divine world. It groups it all together as like just saying a divine attainment. So in some places, Shri Krishna may use the word moksha. He may say prapsyasi. sthanam, shashvatam. He uses different words, but he doesn't differentiate that in the divine world you could attain formless God and you could just get moksha, just liberation, but no actual experience of God. Or there's something beyond that. You could actually see Shri Krishna's leelas and meet him and get to stay with him and be with him forever. That's beyond moksha. Gita doesn't make that distinction. Not explicitly. It doesn't spell it out for us. So we say that Gita ends with moksha. Shri Krishna says, you surrender, I'll give you moksha. Bhagavatam starts from throwing out moksha. Starts from throwing out liberation as a viable option for a devotee. Dharma prodhita kaitavotra paramo nirmatsaranam satam vedyam vastavamatra vastu shivadam tapatrayonmulanam. Shrimad Bhagavate Mahamunikrite Kimva Parairishvara Sadyo Hridya Varudhyatetra Kritibhi Shushru Shubhistatchanat. Vedavyasji says in the second shlok of the Bhagavat that the dharma that I'm teaching here in this Bhagavatam is without any type of deceptions. Kaitav means deception. And the worst deception of all, Taru madhye mokchavancha kaitav pradhan. According to Chaitanya Mahaprabhuji, the king of all the deceptions is the promise of moksha. Why? I'll explain briefly. Because this is part of what makes the Bhagavatam great. When Vedavyasji wrote the Gita, he was not done. I told you yesterday. He felt restless until Naradji came and told him to write the Bhagavatam. It shows there's something more in the Bhagavatam. When he wanted to arouse Shukadevji from his samadhi, from his Brahmaleen samadhi, did he give some shloks of the Gita to his disciples to go and sing? No. He gave shloks of Bhagavatam. So the Bhagavat, think about it, if Gita is so great, and we're saying Bhagavat is even beyond the Gita, how great is Srimad Bhagavat Mahapuran? So in the Bhagavatam, Vedavyasji makes this distinction that moksha is to be discarded. Why? Because there's something better you can get than moksha. Why settle for less? What's better than moksha? Eternal bhakti. That's what's better. When Bhagwan Ram was very pleased with Kagbhushundi, his devotee, he told him, Kagbhushundi manguvar ati prasanna mohi jana. Ask for anything, I'll give you whatever you want. And he gave him some suggestions. Arnima dik siddhi apar nidhi moksha sakala sukha khan. Why not ask for yogic siddhis, the greatest material powers? They're not divine, but the greatest material powers. Or ask for untold wealth. Or why not ask for the fountain of all happiness, moksha, liberation? Now, moksha means to leave you're liberated from your physical body. And you never have to take birth ever again. And you merge into Shri Krishna's formless aspect, and then you never experience anything ever again. That's moksha. Permanent liberation from ever being born in the world, but also You're bereft of any kind of experience because you're not given a mind and a body with which to experience anything in the state of moksha. So you still exist, but you have no awareness of your own existence. You have no awareness or experience of God. Nonetheless, Bhagwan Ram is saying, Kagbhushundi, I'll give you anything. So why not ask for moksha? Kagbhushundi says, do I look like I was born yesterday? Aviral bhakti vishuddha tav shruti puran jehi gav jehi khojat yogi shamuni prabhu prasad ko pav. He says, I want your divine bhakti, your eternal bhakti. There's two kinds of bhakti. One is the bhakti we have to do. As souls who are so attached in the world, we make the effort to bring our mind from the world and think of Shri Krishna. That is also bhakti. We call that sadhana bhakti. It's the bhakti we have to do. But there's another bhakti, a perfect bhakti, a divine power of God. That is the key that unlocks the treasury. Kagbhushundi says, I want that key. You're offering me like a gold coin out of your treasury. I say, forget the gold coin, give me the key to the whole treasury. That's bhakti. So he said, I want the thing you're hiding behind your back. You're saying, why not take this? No, I want that special thing you're hiding behind your back. Muktim dadasi karhichit smana bhakti yogam. In the Bhagavatam, Vedavyasji says, Shri Krishna is very quick to offer mukti, not so quick to offer bhakti. Why? Because aho chitram vande tat prema bandhanam yad baddham muktidam muktam Brahma krida bhrigi kritam. That bhakti is so great, it can tie up Shri Krishna. It binds him. So if he gives that bhakti, which is also known as prem or divine love, if he gives that to his devotee, guess what happens? Now all-powerful, independent God becomes tied up by the love of his devotee. Aham bhakta paradhino yasvatantra iva dvija sadhu bhirgrasta hridayo bhaktair bhakta jana priya. Shri Krishna tells Durvasa Muni, I am subservient to the bhakti of my devotees. They have tied me up with their bhakti and I have become subservient to them. So why would he go out of his way to give us that bhakti? No. When he gives that bhakti, he no longer gets to act as Supreme God. As Supreme God, he's the judge. He sits up there on his throne. He's godly, he's dignified, he's worshipped by all. And when he gives the soul that bhakti, then he ends up begging for his liberation. The tables get turned. Yashodaya samakapi devata nasti bhutale ulukhale yaya baddho muktido muktimichhati. Now his devotee makes him dance to his tune. Mother Yashoda has tied up Shri Krishna. A Paramahansa is amazed. He says, I came to Braj and my Brahm, who's described in Vedas as being supreme, independent, all-knowing, all-powerful, he's tied up by Mother Yashoda and he's crying, he's trembling. What happened? Bhagavatam tells that one day Mother Yashoda decided to churn the curd herself to make butter for her Lala. As she was churning, Shri Krishna came and demanded to get into her lap. Imagine, God demanding to get into the lap of a soul? See, the tables are turned. Because Mother Yashoda is that type of devotee of Shri Krishna, who when she surrendered to him, she said, you keep that moksha far away from me. I don't want your mukti, I want your bhakti. Give me your bhakti. Shri Krishna said, okay, you ask, I have to give it. Now he's given it, look at his status. Status of Supreme God. Now he's begging to get into his devotee's lap, into Mother Yashoda's lap. And he's demanding. He's stomping his feet. He's got a hold of her sari and he's pulling. He's not letting her churn the curd. Would God do such a thing? Yes. Under the effect of that bhakti. This is what the Bhagavatam is trying to tell us. Forget about mukti. You can have God begging to get into your lap. Ask him for bhakti. So don't ask him for just liberation. Tell him, I want you. So actually it's more selfless not to ask for liberation. You're asking for something from God if you ask for liberation. But the wise devotee like Kagbhushundi says, I don't want anything. I want you. I want selfless devotion to you. Then Shri Krishna has to give his divine power of bhakti and he gets tied up by his devotee. So Shri Krishna is now subservient to the love of Mother Yashoda. He's got no consciousness that I'm God. He only knows I am the son of this. She's my loving mother and I want to get into her lap. Imagine Shri Krishna begging to get into your lap. How would that feel? How much love would you feel for him? He is giving his love, he's giving his bliss to Mother Yashoda and he's begging to get into her lap. So she picks him up. She stops doing her work. She sits down, she picks him up and she starts nursing him. He was hungry. That's why he's demanding. Ved says, Esha atma parita papma vijaro vimrityur vishoko vijighatso pipasa satya kama satya sankalpa. Chandogyopanishad says, God is never hungry or thirsty. Yet he's demanding to get into Mother Yashoda's lap. Mother, I'm hungry. Feed me now. So Mother takes him into her arms and nurses him. But then she remembers, oh no, I also put milk to boil on the stove. And she hears it start to boil over. So she quickly sets down young Lala. And she runs to get the milk off the stove. Now Lala, feeling that possessiveness that all young children have over their mother, is upset. What? She put me down so hastily, just ran and he's not thinking that why is she boiling the milk only for him? No, all he knows is my mother put me down just like that, so abruptly. He felt as small children do, some anger. So to show his anger, that mother, you put me down like that, he picked up the pestle, that hard, long piece of stone that you use for grinding things. He picked that up, and that clay pot that Mother Yashoda had full of curd that she was churning, he took that and he smashed it. You see, Mother? You dared to put me down? And then he goes in the other room and he finds another pot of butter and he grabs that and he takes it outside. Mother comes back and sees, huh? She knows this is my Lala who's done this, and she feels so much love that Shri Krishna is so possessive over me that he became angry when I put him down. And he broke this to show me his anger. Now Shri Krishna has gone in the other room and he's grabbed that pot of butter and he's escaped with it and gone outside, and he's sitting on top of an overturned ukhal with his pot of butter, enjoying some for himself, but also feeding the monkeys. So this hard-earned butter that mother has churned, he's just giving it away to all the monkeys. Again, to show his, you see, mother? So she sees him and sneaks up from behind. Now he knows that if he's caught, he's going to be in trouble. So he's taking the butter and eating some and feeding the monkeys, but he's also looking around. That I know she's going to be coming. Where is she? She sneaks up from behind. And just when she's almost there to grab him, he realizes it and he jumps down and he starts running. Now God is running out of fear from a soul. Maya says, today I'm not going to let him get away with this naughtiness, and she starts running after him. She's chasing him all around. Shri Krishna is quick, he's small, he has little legs, but he's quick. And Mother Yashoda is not young, so she's having a little bit of trouble keeping up. Shri Krishna eventually lets himself get caught by her. Bhagavatam says, Supreme God who is chased by all the great yogis, they go in their meditation and they try to get a glimpse of him in their meditation, but he won't come. Even in the meditation of such great yogis, but he is caught. He has been chased and captured by his devotee, by his selfless devotee. Now Mother Yashoda has him, and she grabs a small stick and threatens him that you broke my butter pot, and now you're also feeding the monkeys. Now he's trembling. Now God is trembling in front of a soul, and he's crying, and the kajal from his eyes is running all down his cheeks. What a vision. Think of that, supreme, all-powerful God, in front of whom even Yamraj trembles. The God of death himself trembles in front of Shri Krishna. Look at the power of bhakti. That Mother Yashoda, who's in possession, has been given that divine power of bhakti from Shri Krishna. Now having received that, Shri Krishna looks to Mother Yashoda only as his mother. Not as I'm God and you're just a soul. So now he's trembling and he's crying. So Mother Yashoda just puts the stick down and says, today I want to make sure you learn your lesson, so I'm going to tie you up. She gets a length of rope and tries to tie it around his waist, but it comes up 1 inch short. She gets another length of rope and adds it, ties it on, making it longer. And again, it comes up 1 inch short around his waist. She kept doing that, adding all the pieces of rope, one after another, that she could find in the whole house. And each and every time, it came up 1 inch short. In other words, God is unlimited. No matter how much you have, you can never equal unlimited. However, in the end, Shri Krishna also allowed himself to be tied up by his mother, because under the effect of bhakti, even Supreme God gets tied up. So the Bhagavatam says that Supreme God, who cannot even be tied up by great Brahma, Lord Shiva, even they could not do such a thing to Shri Krishna, and a common soul, but not that common, because she's received bhakti. She is able to tie up Shri Krishna. The gopis are able to make Shri Krishna dance just with the promise of a little bit of chach, a little bit of buttermilk. Supreme God, who never feels hunger, is willing to show some dances, like performing for the gopis. Oh no, that's not enough. I want to see some more dancing. Then I'll give you these few little sips of buttermilk. So the Bhagavatam says, never mind moksha. If you get moksha, you're bereft of this bhakti and you'll be bereft of these leelas and this relationship with Shri Krishna. So from the very beginning, Bhagavatam throws out moksha as a kaitav, as a deception, because if you run after moksha, you won't get bhakti. But if you get bhakti, you get moksha automatically, like a package deal. Like 2 for 1, 2 for the price of 1. You just get divine bhakti, moksha, mukti comes automatically. So you see, the Bhagavatam makes the distinction that even after surrendering to God in the divine world, there are different options. It's not just all one and the same. So the 2 main options, you can break it down even more, and Bhagavatam does, but for tonight, let's keep it simple. 2 main options. Either you get liberation and you merge into God and never experience anything ever again, or you get bhakti, which includes liberation, but you don't even care, you don't even mind. Having received bhakti, having received the status like Mother Yashoda or the gopis or the Gwalbals, you don't care for liberation because you've got Supreme God. Now you've got the key to the treasury. That's what that bhakti is. Just asking for one thing, mukti, or asking for wealth, or asking for anything, that's just asking for a couple gold coins out of the treasury. But when you ask for bhakti, you've got the key to the treasury. Now, whatever Shri Krishna has is yours because he's giving himself to you. This is the dharma of the Bhagavatam, which actually allows you to capture Supreme God and make him your own. So that's why we say Bhagavatam is beyond Gita, because Gita says surrender to God. Gita says do bhakti. Gita says you'll get divine happiness, you'll get a divine attainment, but it doesn't clarify what is your actual divine goal. What's the highest divine goal? That is to get the divine devotion of Shri Krishna and to make him your own through that. So this is some more theoretical understanding of why the Bhagavatam is so great, and also how we can apply that in our own devotion. You yourself can think of yourself as Yashoda Maya, a Gopi, a Gwalbal. We call this Raganuga Bhakti. Not asking God for anything, but adopting a loving relationship in our heart with him. The Gwalbals had Sakhya Bhav. They loved him as friends would love each other. Mother Yashoda and Nanda Baba had Vatsalya Bhav, loving Shri Krishna as your own son. And the Gopis had Madhurya Bhav, loving him as your everything. Your heart, your soul, your beloved, your everything. That's Madhurya Bhav. So we can apply this in our own devotion. Instead of asking God for something, even asking him for liberation, just love him. Adopt one of these feelings in your mind and love him with one of these bhav. And then just see. Let your devotion grow. And then when you meet him in the end, you'll get the best thing. Not just something, but the best thing. He himself will become yours. So we'll finish with one more kirtan, and then we'll have the arti. So as we do this last kirtan, you can also see yourself as Mother Yashoda, or see yourself as a Gopi, or as a Gwalbal. Join in the Leela, as you've heard it described in the Bhagavatam or by Sri Maharaj-ji. And enter into those Leelas and see yourself there with Shri Krishna. Then you're getting the benefit of the Bhagavatam. You're taking those Leelas and you're meditating on them, and you're using that as a way to purify your heart and progress on the path. So let's close our eyes and do a little bit more simple kirtan as we do our own Roop Dhyan and feel our own relationship with Shri Krishna. राधे गोविंद गोविंद राधे गोविंद गोविंद राधे गोविंद गोविंद राधे राधे गोविंद गोविंद राधे बोलो कृष्ण कन्हैया लाल की। We'll finish by having the arti now, so we can. अब न और तरसाओ रसिया, आओ आओ भोग लगाओ रसिया। यद्यपि यह सच है नहीं तुम कहा, यद्यपि यह सच है नहीं तुम कहा, भूख प्यास लागती रसिया, भूख प्यास लागती रसिया, तदपि भाववश ब्रज छछिया लगी, चोरी करत फिर्यो रसिया। अब न और तरसाओ रसिया, आओ आओ भोग लगाओ रसिया। भाव भरा केले का छिलका, भाव भरा केले का छिलका, विदुरानी घर खायो रसिया विदुरानी घर खायो रसिया भावहीन दुर्योधन व्यंजन नहीं टुक मन भायो रसिया अब नौर तरसाओ रसिया आओ आओ भोग लगाओ रसिया जो रस शबरी के जूठे मुख जो रस शबरी के जूठे मुख बेर खाय पायो रसिया बेर खाय पायो रसिया जनकपुरी के राज भोग मह सोरस नहीं पायो रसिया अब नौर तरसाओ रसिया आओ आओ भोग लगाओ रसिया हाँ मानत हाँ भावहीन हो मानत हो भावहीन हो सुनु खरी खरी रसिया सुनु खरी खरी रसिया कत कृपालु पर पियो पूत नहीं याते अब आ जाओ रसिया याते अब आ जाओ रसिया याते अब आ जाओ रसिया ओ रसिया ओ रसिया 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 अब नौर तरसाओ रसिया भोग लगाओ रसिया और तरसाओ रसिया, आओ भोग लगाओ रसिया। बोलो श्रीमद् सद्गुरु सरकार की। आरती प्रीतम प्यारी की बनवारी नतवारी। आरती प्रीतम प्यारी की बनवारी नतवारी। दून सिर कनक मुकुट झलकै, दून श्रुति कुंडल भल हलकै। दून दृग प्रेम सुधा छलकै, रसीले बैन रसीले नैन रसीले सैन। धुन मैनन मन हारी, की बनवारी नतवारी। आरती प्रीतम प्यारी की बनवारी नतवारी। दुमुनि दृग चितवनि परवारी, दुमुनि लट लट कनि छवियारी। दुमुनि भाव मत कनि अति प्यारी, प्रसन्न मुख पान हसन मुस्कान। दसन गमकान दुनि देसर छवि न्यारी की बनवारी नतवारी। आरती प्रीतम प्यारी की बनवारी नतवारी। एक और पीताम्बर फहरै, एक और नीलाम्बर लहरै। दुमुन उरलर मोतिन छरै, कंकणन खनक किंकुन झनक नूपुरन भनक। धुन रुन झुन धुनि प्यारी की बनवारी नतवारी। आरती प्रीतम प्यारी की बनवारी नतवारी। एक सिर मोर मुकुट राजै, एक सिर चूनरी छवि छाजै। दुमुन सिर तिरछे भल भ्राजै, संग ब्रज बाल लाड़ी लाल बाल डाल। कृपालु दुमुन दृग चारी की बनवारी नतवारी। आरती प्रीतम प्यारी की बनवारी नतवारी। आरती प्रीतम प्यारी की बनवारी नतवारी। जयति जगद गुरु गुरुवर की, गाओ मिनी आरती रसिक वर की। गाओ गाओ मिनी आरती रसिक वर की। गुरुपद नख मणि चंद्रिका प्रकाश, जाके उर बस ताके मोहतम नाश। जाके माथ नाथ तब हाथ कर वास, ताते होय माया मोह सबरी निराश। पावे रति मति राधावर की, गाओ मिनी आरती हरे मन मूर्छानु नारी नर हाथ, गुरु बिनु ब्रह्म श्याम न देंगे साथ। कोमल कृपाल बड़े कृपा सिंधुनाथ, पाके में आज तू अनाथ हो सनाथ। गाओ गाओ नी आरती रसिकवरती, भक्ति योग रस अवतार अभिराम, करें निगमागम समन्वय ललाम। श्यामा श्याम नाम रूप लीला गुण धाम, माति रहे प्रेम निष्काम दीनु दाम। गाओ गाओ नी आरती रसिकवरती, लली लाल लीला का सलोना सुविलास, छाया दिव्य दृष्टि बिच प्रेम का प्रकाश। वैसा ही विनोद वही मंजू विदुहास, करें बस कर बस अट्टहास। गाओ नी आरती रसिकवरती, गाओ गाओ नी आरती रसिकवरती, जयति जगत गुरुवरती। गाओ नी आरती रसिकवरती, गाओ गाओ नी आरती रसिकवरती। बोलो श्रीमत युगल सरकार की, श्रीमत सद्गुरु सरकार की, प्यारी प्यारी अम्मा की, श्री भक्ति धाम की जय जय। श्री राधे जय जय, श्री राधे जय जय, श्री राधे।